Hi, welcome to JD Sports. I'm Jared Hood. That's Dwight Garfield. You can find our personal Twitters at the show's Twitter, which is @_JD Sports. Getting into it this week. Now, we're mainly, as we always talk about, an NFL show, I guess, overall. That's how it started. That's how it was organic. It was an organic thing. I mean, we did a full entire, our first ever show was a preview of the NFL season last year. So,
yep.
Whenever there's a little NFL news, we usually start out with it.
I mean, it's the leader right now.
Now, I have a little more, I would say, I guess, tolerance for this next subject than you do. But I also think that the two people that we are talking about are out of line in their own right. And they also...
I'm about to Fred Sanford out the chair. You said it right now? You just said that?
And I also want to make the connection that technically they were both Browns in the last year.
Uh-huh. What does that say?
That organization's having some issues overall. But they just brought in RG3. Anyways, so moving on to the two people we're talking about. Johnny Manziel.
Your boy!
Over the weekend. No, see, now here's... As a football player, I do think there is talent there. But if he touched that woman, then we have issues.
Yes.
But what he did on Saturday...
Go ahead, tell the story, because you came over to my house...
It's such a bad move.
And you were so happy and...
I think it's funny. No. I wouldn't say happy. No. I like the fact that he...
You were so
I like when
about
NFL
what he
players,
did.
Oh, yes. No. He was drunk, and he was in a video, and if he was living with Von Miller, I was like, my man's out here telling the world that he's living with Von Miller, blah, blah, blah. See, now, what he did was lie, and that just makes him look...
Well, now it came out, yes, that he lied.
Freaking stupid. But yes, no.
Again, he lied.
To your point, yes, on Sunday when it wasn't out that he wasn't living with Von Miller, I was excited because I like that these players and these athletes do things like okay, Jordan and Iverson both got in trouble by the NBA for partying and being at casinos and things like this and blah blah blah. Now,
but they also knew how to be professional when it was necessary.
I'm not saying that Johnny on the football field. Okay, I agree that there's definitely something going on there, obviously, and he needs to fix himself in that sense. It's just like the Josh Gordon thing. What Josh Gordon is technically failing for, it's very hard because different states legalized it. You have coaches in the NFL, which that was Pete Carroll saying, which he is in a state that is legalized, and he was the head coach that said about, he thinks that whatever. My point is, you have to be able to put it down for the millions of dollars because it is not something that it cannot take over your life in that sense. I mean, you need to be able to step away. You need to be able to get on the football field. And you need to be able, you know what I mean? You have a short, limited amount of time. You can do that for the rest of your life after you retire.
Right.
You never have to apply for a job again in your entire life. And by the time you retire, who knows? It might be legalized because you're playing in the NFL today. You're playing in 2016, so it might happen. In the next couple of years. Why are you putting your future on the line and your next year on the line, year after year after year?
Okay, to go off that point before we go too far off on the subject, because there's a lot to get into with this. Mm-hmm. To go back to your point, that maybe it's legal in the state that he did it. This is what irritates me.
Well, if he was in Colorado, that would be right.
Great.
No, I agree with you.
Doesn't matter.
I agree with you. No, you have a drug test coming up, man.
You know why it doesn't matter? And this is what trips me out about a lot of people that smoke weed. They don't seem to understand this very point. Is that, well, when it's legal, then I can do whatever I want. Alcohol and drinking is legal. But guess what? You're not allowed to get drunk and go to work.
Yeah, right.
And it's going to be the same thing with marijuana. You're not going to be able to, you're not going to be allowed to be high and go to work and this, that, and
I think to their
it's
point,
going to be
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
And the NFL doesn't allow it.
I think to their point it's going to be something that they're not going to be able to drug test these players for that in the future, so now he's failing for something like that. But the other aspect of it is the NFL hasn't changed their guidelines on it, and if that is the guidelines and you are making millions of dollars,
you broke the rule.
The flip side of this is
what
you're losing millions of dollars, man. This is
for what?
This is for smoking weed. This is a bigger deal than just, and it's coming. You know the drug tests were coming.
Especially when you're suspended and you're up for your reinstatement. And then, it's not proven, it's not factual. He came out and tweeted something about when you get a worthy story to talk about, you let me know. He was kind of deflecting it, he's denying it. Is it true? Is it not true? I don't know. It's kind of
he says
for
all
the
the
debate
right
right now, but
he
his
says all the right
record.
things in the interviews. He says like he's a changed man. I mean, he was
His record says otherwise.
right.
He doesn't get the benefit of the doubt at this point.
I
Sorry.
completely agree. Now, the other aspect of this is Johnny Manziel might be living with him.
I thought he was living with Von Miller.
Well, he said he was living with Von Miller, but that was the problem. Okay, so when I was excited on Sunday, it was because I like when these players are, doing their thing, when they're human beings, when you are on the street.
Okay.
Okay,
Did you watch that video?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Okay.
It's Johnny
I'm glad you
Manziel.
can say
It's
that.
not something
I'm glad
that
you said that. I'm glad
you're not sitting. Listen,
he was a drunken slob, and he was like, oh, he was
I
like,
have to go to all aspects of this. If I'm going to support,
I'm not drunk, guys.
if I'm going to support Allen Iverson, okay, who did outlandish, ridiculous things. Listen, he kicked his wife out at one point and put her naked on the street and threw all of her clothes out the window after she got out to shower.
And you defended that?
No, there is no defense. That's out.
Okay.
That's a piece of shit move.
That's a piece of shit move, and it's a piece of shit move
Right.
when you stand in front of a camera.
But what I'm saying here,
You're lying and you're drunk.
No. See, I didn't
and then
know
you
he
lie
was
about
lying.
not being
No.
drunk.
What I'm saying is I'm going back to Sunday. I'm going back to about Sunday about the line thing.
We're on Sunday right now.
But I think that he was trying to joke. I think that in his drunken stupor he thought it would be a joke to say he wasn't drunk. No, I mean if he's that stupid, then yeah, we have issues, man. Like, it's not, and you gotta fix it.
And like I said, he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt either. Okay, well, so let's fast forward to
Today, when we know he's lying,
when Von Miller comes out and says, "Bro, what are you not living
he's
with
not
me?"
living with me yet. But they say he's living with Josh Gordon. Apparently, according to ESPN, he's living with Josh Gordon, which I don't know if that's true.
Oh, the circle of life. Now we got one fuck from Cleveland and
Do
another
you think
fuck
either
from
ever play in
Cleveland.
the NFL again?
No,
I don't think so either.
and it's a shame. It's a shame because
Josh Gordon has talent. I think that Johnny.
Wait, we
Manziel
talking about Manziel. We talking about Josh Gordon.
But do you think either play in the NFL ever again?
Oh
Either.
man, Josh Gordon. I mean, apparently, okay. Josh Gordon apparently is going to come up for reinstatement again come August. Right now, they're like, no, bro, you can sit down for a little bit. Will he get another opportunity? I don't know. Maybe. I think he has more of a shot than Johnny Manziel. I think Johnny Manziel, he's done. I think he blew that. He blew that. And you say it's a TMZ thing, which okay, yes, TMZ and they're a bunch of TMZ. They're a bunch of fucks, but Johnny also puts out these videos.
Oh, no,
he also
Johnny,
puts himself out in that public
listen, the
light,
fact that,
and he says these things.
The fact that he lied and straight up said he's living with Von Miller, right there, right then and there. I don't care if it's TMZ. I don't care how, who, what, where, when, and how. The fact that he said it to anybody. It's Johnny. You can't. You're being.
I'm living with Von Miller right now.
Right, and I completely agree that what he did is just ridiculous and it's outlandish, and
You know what it looks like
was
now?
out of line.
And now it looks like he's covering his tracks because in reality, I'm living with somebody that's on this marijuana suspension.
I mean, it's no rumor that he
has a lot of
dabble in drugs from time to time, apparently.
Okay,
so.
Yeah. And what did he even say in the video? He was like, "Man, you see me out here? How many days a week do you see me out here?" And the dude was like, "All the time." And he was like, "Yeah, exactly. I'm here like 6 days a week or whatever he said in the video." And it was like,
Drinking.
"Okay, whatever. You're drinking." And to his point, okay, to his credit, he was like, "There's this between partying, having a good time, and then causing problems." Fair enough, Johnny, but your reputation doesn't allow you to do that. And now you're living with somebody that has a reputation of not being able to stay clean of marijuana.
If you were out of the news,
why would anybody want to sign you and take a risk on your erratic behavior?
I always bring it up, and I always say,
I don't want you. Nobody wants you.
I always say, what's the difference between Gronk and other players? And I don't understand how Gronk can do the things he does and how he does them. But on the flip end of this, at least Gronk isn't causing trouble off the news. I mean,
he does some questionable things. It's like,
but he doesn't harm anybody. He's not getting arrested. He's not
allegedly beating up on people.
He's still playing very well. Apparently, he comes to practice every day.
He shows up on time.
He's a workout fiend.
And he produces on the football field.
Tom Brady's friend. So, I mean,
all those things work out. Johnny Manziel has none of that going for him. Nothing. He's just a spoiled rich kid that thinks he's entitled. Oh. He's this typical millennial kid that thinks he can do what he wants.
I said it before.
And now he's about to find out, bro, you ain't gonna have a job.
I said it before when he was cut, if he put his hands on that girl, I wouldn't, then I definitely don't want him to have another job for a long time in the NFL. But if he didn't, I said I wanted him to have an opportunity, a chance. But things like this, it makes you want to retract that and makes me think, okay, well, if he's going to act like this, even when he's not on an NFL team, then there is no logic to me that would make sense for somebody to sign him. And that sucks because I like his talent. I like watching him play football. He is very fun and electric, and what he did in college was amazing. I would love to see him on a good team with some skilled players, open up a little bit, have a little control, but I mean, he can't control himself off the field. So this is an issue.
It's a shame.
And the Josh Gordon thing, I mean, you said he's up for reinstatement in August.
That's just
I couldn't imagine that they're not just going to suspend him for an entire year again after failing another one. I would assume that they're either going to suspend him for half the season or do that. But either way, you've taken out so much of your career. You're the prime of your career.
Supposedly you have. I heard somebody on the Worldwide Leader today on ESPN. They were saying he's got Hall of Fame talent, and I'm like,
I don't know about that, but he has ridiculous talent. He did some
it's
unbelievable
crazy.
things
It's
in a
crazy.
Browns uniform.
And you're wasting it. You're wasting it.
He was a top receiver, and he played for the Browns.
And for what? And for something that might.
And
for something that might end up being legalized here shortly anyway. What? Like, come on, man.
That's the Browns saga. So.
I don't get it. They're both out there. They both clearly need help, regardless of where you stand on what they're doing.
Yeah.
Back as far as Manziel, real quick. One or two things are going to happen. Either I think he's going to end up. I don't want to say this, but he's going to end up in a newspaper.
Yeah.
One or two, he's just going to end up unemployed, unwanted, and we're not going to hear from him again until that 30 for 30 comes out on him.
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to be a Ryan Leaf situation, and it's going to be worse. And
he's going to get some accounting gig or some car salesman shit.
Yep. And it's going to be
not that he needs it because his family's rich.
Right, but
and that's why I think part of the problem is
cut him off. Yeah, I think that's probably a huge part of the problem.
He just feels like he's invincible.
Yes, I agree. He had everything unfortunately handed to him probably his whole life.
I know a couple of them. Not quite to that level, obviously, but I know a couple.
Super extreme.
I know a couple entitled kids I went to school with, and they have such a different mindset.
Yeah, it's odd.
It's a shame.
Moving forward.
Is there anything more positive?
Well, see, now Johnny Manziel doesn't have any shame, right? It seems like he's coming off with no shame. Well, going to the Masters, Jordan Spieth was just standing there as open as just. He's Reggie Miller and Jordan Spieth right now. That's got to be the worst.
Wow.
Everybody, it's on the back nine of the Masters. Anybody that watches golf is watching that day on day 4 of the Masters, and we
watched it a little bit together.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
And my man was
put a couple in the water. A couple bogeys in a row, and then the 7.
I think that's what jinxed it. I shouldn't have watched it.
Yeah, maybe, but I picked him, and he was going wire to wire for the second year in a row until those last holes, until the first 3 holes in the back 9. He was leading the whole time. Willett gets he ends up winning, which he's a cool story because on the Saturday before his kid was born, but the due date was actually supposed to be the Sunday at the Masters, so. It just works out in his favor. He told his wife he wasn't going to play in the Masters if the kid wasn't born before. So, he was the last player entered in the tournament. There's just so many cool, things about him winning. Very big deal. Good for him. But it's not going to be known as the Masters that he won. It's always going to be known as the Masters that Spieth lost. You have McIlroy, who did something like that on the back 9. I think it was in 2010 or 2011. It might even been a little later, like 2012. But he ends up, he never really recovered. He never ended up having a good Masters after that. But Spieth had an impressive 6 straight rounds. 7 straight rounds. And he was going, and then on the front 9 of his eighth straight round while he was leading, he made his lead even bigger. So, he was having a good day even up to that point. But McIlroy never came back Masters-wise since that. He's had a couple good days, here and there, but he's never recovered. He's never been in the final day of the Masters really in it. There's some other big ones to note like that, but I think Spieth comes back because he is so young and he's so talented and so good.
You would hope so. Wasn't he like
21, I think.
I was going to say 22. He's somewhere around there.
Yeah, so
very young, very young.
But he is also that's a defining moment in a career, and that is the worst feeling you could possibly have. Because that is the Super Bowl, is the biggest event in your sport, and you just
Cam Newton it.
No, Cam Newton didn't do that.
No, he didn't show up, so that's not even a good comparison.
But do you know what I mean? It was just so, and it was heartbreaking to watch because I like Spieth. I want to see Spieth succeed, and I was rooting for Spieth at that moment. I was very, excited. I loved what he was doing. It was impressive to watch, and then.
In fairness to him, he blew the lead, but then at the end there, it seemed like he was bringing it back.
He had that look in his eye. He missed a pretty good putt on 17 though that finished it off, which I thought.
Oh, that was ugly.
Yeah,
ugly.
And it just is like like he had that look in his eye until that shot. He really did. And it would have been awesome to see him make the comeback.
It's kind of. I'm not a golf expert at all, but I know when you miss a shot like that's just devastating. That's just going to kill your whole your whole mindset. It's a very mental game, obviously. So I mean, missing that, and he knew he was already
so much
down.
Pressure on it. He needed that shot, and
hurt.
He put it well over. It just there was no.
I think you called it then when that happened. You were like, all right, he's done.
He's done. Yeah, that was the exact moment. I was like, all right, well, he made it. I was impressed by the attempt, like you said he was making, because Tiger used to get that look in his eye. Mm-hmm. And if you were leading in the clubhouse and Tiger was only a couple shots behind you, you were sitting there just staring at the TV, and you just knew he was going to either tie it up and make you go into a playoff against him, or you knew he was going to take you over and win it. And that was I wanted to see that out of Spieth. He made the effort, made the attempt, didn't work out, but. Congratulations to Willett.
Definitely, especially considering the circumstances. That's incredible.
As a golf fan, I am excited to see the future of Jordan Spieth and where he does go, because like I said, this is a turning moment in his career. That is one of the biggest things you could possibly do. I mean, we don't really talk golf a whole lot on here. I pay attention to it for the most part, but we don't really bring it up on here. So that's how big of that moment it is for him. But
definitely.
Moving on, a little bit of hockey.
What's going on with hockey? It's playoffs time, man.
Well, yeah, before we get into that, the Flyers owner, Ed Snider, passed away. He's the CEO. He's still the chairman. He was up until his death. He brought hockey to Philadelphia. He brought it into the inner city. And he actually did a lot of really cool stuff. He had a lot of really cool inner city charities. He used to bring hockey into all inner cities. Like he went to Chicago, built an arena in there. He has a small thing in like in the inner cities. He's getting people from all walks of genre in life, and he wants everybody, and he's bringing hockey. He took it overseas as well to different places that didn't have it before. Like Russia obviously had it and stuff like that, but like he took it, just places that have just never had it before. He likes to do that kind of stuff. And Philadelphia was never really looked at as anything hockey, and here he comes in the '60s with this idea. He actually mortgaged his house to buy the team, or to start the team.
That's kind of extreme.
To start the team, he mortgaged his entire, and he made like the biggest.
That's a heck of a gamble.
As a Flyers fan, that came obviously well before me. I mean, I wouldn't be as into hockey as I am without Ed Snider. So, condolences to his family. And as a Flyers fan, it's heartbreaking. It's sad. It's pretty cool. Lauren Hart her mom used to sing the national anthem. She used to sing "God Bless America." Before every game. And he had her mom do that. So before the big games, her daughter now does that, and her daughter FaceTimed Ed Snider before the Penguins game on Saturday, and the Flyers beat the Penguins on Saturday, which is their biggest rival to get into the playoffs. And she wanted to bring him into the building because he was in a hospital bed in California, but. It's just pretty cool. That was one of his last games that he ever got to see. And I know he wasn't there, but was a win over the Penguins to get into the playoffs. That's awesome. But
Yeah, it's great that he was able to see that though.
Yeah, and for what he was,
some capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. But for what he was, not just in Philadelphia, but in all of hockey, it's a pretty big deal and a big loss. But in Philadelphia itself, as a big Philadelphia sports fan, I think, and I just had the debate a couple of weeks ago. Not a debate because we both, me and the guy we was talking to, agree. He is the biggest non-athlete in Philadelphia sports of all time. I mean, he is the most important non-athlete to the city, was connected to sports without question. And honestly, you could make the argument that he is probably the biggest. You could make the argument that he's up there as the biggest person in Philly sports of all time. I mean, there's a long list of other athletes on that, and a couple of owners on there as well. But he is definitely, without question, the top of all time owner, or chairman, anything like that. With just for what he did, not just for the Flyers, but what he did for the city. So. Rest in peace, Ed Snider. Getting into it, though, you said about the playoffs coming, rooting for the Flyers to pull off the unthinkable from the AC to, maybe beat the Capitals. The Capitals.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a very objective question.
Yeah.
That I'm not going to get an objective answer to.
What?
Do you guys, not even just in this round, do you think you have a shot to make a little bit of noise? Maybe pass, maybe even the second round? Maybe to get to the second round? Pass the second round, I should say.
Let me put it to you this way.
Objectively.
I never expect an 8 seed to go and do that.
No.
Okay? No. So, that's my objective answer. Okay?
Fair enough.
The other flip end of it is, the only Flyers Cup appearance in the last 20 years came from when they were the 8 seed. So I can't, they did the most, and it's unthinkable.
Don't look at that.
It's unthinkable that they did it. I mean, they did it.
Enough,
they didn't win the Cup, but I mean, they made it the whole way to the Stanley Cup as an 8 seed.
But looking at this talent today, do you think that's possible? Realistically?
Yeah, they're one of the hottest teams in hockey going into the. They were one of the hottest teams in hockey. It's always about the hottest teams in hockey. The Kings did it 4 years ago. They ended up winning it. They were the hottest team in hockey going in. The Flyers are, I think, the second or third hottest team in hockey. I'm not saying that they're going to do it. I'm just telling you that if there's.
Is it realistic?
Is it realistic? Yeah, it's the Kings did it. The Kings did it. Now, do I think it's going to happen? No.
Well, then you just gave two different answers. So your answer is no.
You asked me if it's realistic. I don't
Is
think
it realistic?
I don't think it's realistic a 16 seed can beat a 1, but I think it's realistic a 2 could be 15. But I don't think it's impossible for a 16 seed to beat a 1. I think it's unrealistic. I don't think it can happen, but it's not impossible. It's absolutely not impossible. And I don't think that an 8 seed winning a cup is impossible. I've actually seen it happen. I've seen an 8. I mean,
that's
so
not what I'm asking.
that's going to give you faith.
Let's keep going.
Well,
that's not what I was asking. Keep it going.
If you saw an 8 seed in the NBA
Mm-hmm.
win the finals,
Mm-hmm.
and the Lakers were an 8 seed one year,
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't be like, well, hey,
No, that's not.
The Kings did it.
That way. No, that would not be that way.
no. Well, I mean, I'm
not that
like,
type of
hey,
person.
the Kings did it. So
I'm not the type of person to be like, well, if they could do it, then we can do it. No, I'm like, no, objectively, no, probably not.
oh well, the Capitals are the best team probably in the NHL. Now,
Okay.
the good thing about
You're
the
just gonna keep giving me like two different answers. Go ahead.
The good thing about the
Keep it going.
Flyers is the Flyers have, I think, beat them 18 of the last 25 times they've played. So, I mean, they have their number.
Mm.
What does that do in a 7-game series? I don't know. Holtby's really impressive, and Ovechkin is playing, I mean, at some of his best right now. So, we'll see going forward. I actually picked a repeat of the Cup last year, and I picked a repeat of the winner. I picked Chicago to beat the Rangers. I think Lundqvist gets really good in the playoffs. It's one of those like LeBron effects. I think they just step it up in the playoffs. And I think that the Rangers are getting healthy at the right time, and they also they are as talented as the Capitals. The Capitals are probably the best record in the NHL. The Chicago, they went through a kind of rough patch, but I think that they have the most dominant offense, and it's going to be up to their goaltending and defense, which I think is sometimes a little risky. But at the same time, they've been there. Most of those players have been there. They just won it last year, and their offense.
They've been in a mix for a minute.
Their
now.
offense is so powerful that it's going to be very hard, I think, for them to not outscore teams in a 7-game series. But that's the fun of the playoffs. Sometimes you get a 0-0 game, and I don't know how well they would fare if they were playing, a super hot goalie, and they, can't score more than 2 or 3 goals a game in a series. That might cause a lot of trouble for them. But I don't see that happening, so I'm picking them. But the playoff hockey is, to me, the best playoffs in sports, and it is the most unpredictable playoffs in sports. So I love it, and I'm excited.
It's a fun time. I mean, I'm not a hockey person at all, but I'll catch a little bit of playoff hockey here and there. It's that I could tolerate a lot more than regular season hockey by far, but it's a fun time. I don't have a prediction or anything whatsoever, but I mean, it's definitely a fun time, and I might check it out.
Well,
I'm not checking out the Flyers, but
speaking of playoffs, we're going to talk about the NBA playoffs coming up.
I know a little bit about that.
Which we need to get into, but first we got to trip over Golden State.
Where do we even begin with them?
Do they break the record?
Are we talking about that first? We're not going to talk about the other 2 games that they just...
Well,
we want to talk about that? What do you want to talk about first? We can talk about...
Saturday night, I am not somebody who thinks that the refs can dictate a game all the time, and you can't, if the ref didn't call it, this, that, and the next thing. But what happened at the end of that game literally affects the outcome. And it's really hard for me to excuse that. I'm not
one of these conspiracy theorists.
I am, so.
Right,
You know that. You know that.
I've never been one of these conspiracy theorists because I think it's mostly BS. But then you see the results, that type of result, and it just makes you just kind of tilts your head a little bit, like,
Yeah, you're looking at it. It's a little odd.
It was very odd. Wasn't there 2 calls that they missed?
Yeah,
against Golden State.
Yeah, Lance Stevenson comes down in the floor. He gets
That's right. Yeah,
absolutely ran over going up for a layup. He gets the rebound somehow, miraculously gets the rebound and chucks up. And as we were watching it, because in real time, okay, I'll be honest, I was drinking a little bit Saturday.
It doesn't matter. It was real.
Well, so I didn't pay attention. I didn't notice the fouls the first time around. So when he went up for the layup, right, and he picks up the ball and he goes for the 3, I looked at you, and my first thought was, that is the most Lance Stevenson play I've ever seen in my entire life. But then I saw the replay, and he got fouled on that, and then he got fouled on the jump shot as well.
The jump shot, I'll take the. We can take the layup away.
But the jump shot, he got absolutely ran over by 2 players. 2 players landed
Steph
on him.
was in there.
2 players landed on him.
Steph definitely found him. It just makes you scratch your head.
I don't think it had anything to do with like
shady.
a Vegas thing. I think it was more of an NBA trying to get the Warriors to win that game because it draws a lot of interest on Wednesday night's game.
Which is, to your initial point, for the little Bulls title in the 72 they're tied up for right now.
Part of me wants them to not win it on the basis of what happened Saturday night makes me angry. And
they're in Golden State. It's a rematch. Same team, Memphis. Matt
Right.
Barnes. He's going to be looking for Derek Fisher, but he ain't there. Is he going to take Steph Curry's Derek Fisher?
Uncle Steph in the building.
I don't know.
But
Matt's going to be angry, though.
the Grizzlies are going to be coming off a back-to-back. They play the Clippers the night before, so we'll see about that. They're probably going to be a little...
Are they going to care? Are they going to sit their starters? We know Golden State's going for it. No question about it.
Well, yeah, but the Grizzlies have stuff to play for, I think.
Maybe positioning?
Well, yeah, so then why would they sit their starters? And they're not going to sit their starters. They definitely won't sit their starters then. And to your point, they just played Saturday. They want that revenge, man.
They do.
They want that revenge, especially the way it ended.
They should have won that, yeah.
And they think they should have won that. So
did they get it? Does Golden State dethrone Chicago? The
probability is yes.
GOAT team.
The probability is yes, they get it. Now,
I'm thinking it's like 99% they're doing it.
Yeah, I agree with that. 2 things.
They should have lost. I think they should have lost that game against Memphis.
Yeah.
But I really thought they were going to lose the game against San Antonio. In San Antonio, they ended up beating San Antonio.
Right.
So the fact they did both of those things, it's just destined to be a thing now. I think they might just destroy and just blow out Memphis altogether.
They still have to win the championship for it to matter because at the end of the day, the Seattle Mariners, who have the best record in baseball, I think it was in '99, they lost in the playoffs to the Yankees.
Nobody cares how the Patriots finished when they went undefeated until they lost.
My thought is that, and the other side of it, for me, I like history, so I'm cool with them. I'd like to see them win it on that end. You know, I'm 50-50 if I want them to win or not because of what happened on Saturday. I don't think it's legitimate. But at the same time, I like history, so you get a little luck along the way. It's really hard because at this exact moment, I truly think I feel like I'd rather them just not break it because I don't think it's legit, and I think that I would have zero problem with them breaking it if that didn't happen at the end of the game on Saturday night. But I just feel like that literally changed the outcome of one of their wins at the end of the season when they were going. It just seemed like it's not
kind of shady.
Did the Bulls ever get any handed to them like that? And that's my, you know what I mean? That's so it's really hard for me to think.
Does the NBA want this record broken?
Yes.
They want this publicity.
The NBA has been trying to get out of Jordan's shadow for a very long time.
Oh my.
That's why they won't ever change the logo to Michael Jordan. It's been talked about, but they would never do that because they're trying to get out of his shadow.
I don't even want to go on.
Right, we don't have to go into
Bulls
that.
and Jordan just because I think this whole conversation about fuck it, we're already here. Which team would win? I think this whole conversation is ridiculous. I don't think it's a legitimate conversation whatsoever. Yes, the records they're matching right now. And
I want to see if Golden State wins the championship before we even start talking about things like that.
Well, they won the championship.
No, I want them to win the championship in the season that they win, that they did the record.
Even if they do, I still kind of don't want to have that conversation.
But
I don't know.
I think it's more legitimate to have it at that moment, yes?
Well, yeah, definitely.
I'm not saying it's something that you and I would sit here and do because you and I don't really do that kind of stuff for the most part. But in that case, I mean, I'm not...
I think it's a ridiculous conversation.
Yeah, it's not something you and I would talk about, but at the same time, I don't think it's unjustified for those people who care about that stuff. I think at the moment, it's not something that really should be brought up or cared about because they didn't win the championship yet. They are not that team. If they break the record and they go on to win the championship, then yeah, there's probably, it's hard to argue if they're the greatest team of all time or not. But
bunch of hypothetical BS,
let's wait till
analytical
it happens.
BS.
And we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I'll be mad then too. With the same opinion.
I noticed you put the Lakers jersey on. The Kobe. I'm not gonna lie. The white Laker home. The Sunday whites are my favorite Lakers jerseys.
They're fantastic.
And the patch, I love the final patch. So
ain't gonna be seeing that for a while.
I mean, I don't even have an Iverson Finals patch because there's really no reason to have that. So
I didn't know one existed.
Feel better. Well, yeah, because he lost to Kobe Bean. Speaking of Kobe Bean, last game Wednesday night.
Oh my.
10:30.
10:30 Eastern time, which is our time. 10:30 at night, bro. On what network?
The Deuce.
On what network? Oh, it's ESPN. On what channel?
The Deuce. They could have put it on the Ocho.
On ESPN too.
They could have put it on the Ocho for his old number. ESPN the Ocho. You remember that? Well. Anyways. I'm not disagreeing with your upset. Okay, so the other day when I was walking out,
why I'm upset about this.
when I was leaving your apartment, I said to you, I think it was kind of petty that you thought it was a problem that it's on ESPN too, right? But thinking back on this, we both probably agree they could just move the time.
They can do a bunch of things.
Over the last couple of days, I decided that they should just move the time.
Of the LA game or the Golden State game?
The LA game, because it's going to sell out either way. Listen, you have tickets.
They're both going to sell out either way.
Right, yes. I agree with that. But you have tickets to the Kobe Bryant final ever game.
In case you're
in LA,
for some reason you have no idea what we're talking about. Both the Golden State Warriors game, for the record, is on at 10:30. Along with Kobe's last game is on at 10:30 on the West Coast time.
And I think that
East Coast time is 10:30.
Yeah. But I think that
one's on ESPN, one's on ESPN too.
But I think that the Kobe thing, you could get people in LA would be taken off work. They would be definitely, like, you know what I mean? LA would definitely be there. It's his last game of all time. It's going to show up. It's going to sell out. It's going to be a packed, rocking house. It doesn't matter if it's at 4 o'clock West Coast time. Make it 5 o'clock. Make it an 8 o'clock start. Make it 5 o'clock West Coast time.
The NBA doesn't have this ability. The NFL seems to know how to get this right when they want to get it right.
I'm not going to lie. The NFL always gets that right.
Every single time.
This is probably why
there's no convenience why. It's not a convenience why they managed to get Aaron Rodgers competing for a playoff spot on the last game of the season on national television.
They have flex schedules for a reason. They call it time to be.
The NBA doesn't have that flexibility?
Well, they do not. They lock themselves in contract-wise. And while you and I don't disagree that that's ridiculous, they feel like they're getting more money that way. At the moment, they have to start doing these things.
You're splitting your viewership, too. That's stupid. You're fighting against yourself. That also doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so they got, at like 8 o'clock,
Can we do a split screen? Why don't on ESPN we just have a split screen of both games at the same time?
Dude, there's so much stuff they can do. I don't get it. At 8 o'clock, they got the Cavaliers and the freaking Celtics on at 8 o'clock. You can't just bump that game off somewhere. You can't put that.
The Heat and Celtics.
You're right. My bad. The Heat and Celtics on at 8 o'clock. You can't just bump.
Worse.
Yeah. Yeah. This isn't for the king. It's for that bum. It's for the team that he left and he's going to go back to. You can't just one either bump that off or two. I don't get it, dude. You can't just either bump it off, or you can't even just put that on ESPN2 and then bring the Kobe game at 8 o'clock, or bring the Golden State game at 8. And one of the two. You can. There's so many ways you can go about it. Having them both on at the same time though makes absolutely no sense. Like I said, you're splitting your viewership. It makes no sense. That's stupid.
I don't disagree.
What I mean, maybe they're thinking, okay, well, most people just want to see the Kobe introduction, maybe the finale, like in my case, and then everybody else is going to watch Golden State. Maybe that's what they're thinking. From my perspective, I'm like, I want to see both.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm going to have 2 different TVs. I'm going to have both my TVs set up and have the app for this and the cable for this. That's ridiculous, though. I shouldn't have to do that.
It's going to be hard to stay up that late for both of them to see history and Kobe.
That's the other thing. It's 10:30 at night Eastern Standard Time. Some of us got to work. We both got to work early in the morning.
I'm super early this week as well.
Yeah.
You told me you were as well. So.
Yeah. So staying up to 1 o'clock in the morning if you want to watch
not reasonable
one or both,
not reasonable.
It's completely unreasonable.
No way I can do that.
So what? Oh, well, you can DVR it. I shouldn't have to do that. One of them, at least.
I'm not making Mike. I'm not waking up in the morning and watching highlights.
I'm not Greeny, DVRing it and watching it at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
No way.
Not doing that.
No way. I'll check the score in the morning.
Yeah, before any of that. But But from my perspective, like I feel like I told you, I have to watch the entire game.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't have a choice to
I
watch
understand.
Kobe's last game, obviously. And there's also that intrigue. I mean, maybe if Golden State starts blowing out Memphis, but if it's an actual game, it's like, okay, well, I really want to watch
then you
this
want to
too.
see Memphis.
So then what? I'm flipping back and forth.
Right.
Which again, you're splitting
Split viewership.
no sense whatsoever. I feel like the NBA, ESPN, whoever's in charge of this situation could figure this out. I don't buy into the whole contract thing. I understand they kind of are tied into that, but I feel like something could have been done.
Well, you're not wrong on they need to be more like the NFL and do the flex schedule thing. The flex schedule would make things so much easier for them. And the NFL doesn't seem to care if it's a Wednesday night on the West Coast, or let me put it this way: Thursday night on the West Coast. They start games at 5:00. They don't care if it's Sunday night on the West Coast.
Right.
It does not matter to them when it is. They start the games at their own time when they would like. So I think that the NBA needs to be able to get a hold of things like that. They also need to probably. This is partially Kobe's fault because he should have. If he would have announced it before the season, they would have changed things around. But at the same time, he still would have ended up on a Tuesday or Tuesday or Wednesday night finishing his career. So it's hard. The whole thing is just kind of
Just dumb.
right.
It's bad. It's bad planning.
Yeah.
Altogether.
But they do it because they want the playoffs to be on Saturday to start.
Well, and that's all fine and dandy, but why? I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Puts everybody in a bad position.
It's an ugly situation. Nobody's winning out of this situation except if maybe you live on the West Coast and you have two TVs side by side, and then maybe it just works out that way. I don't know.
So
It's just dumb. It's dumb planning. The NBA needs to get their shit together as far as I'm concerned. I understand that they didn't predict that Kobe was going to necessarily say, okay, this is it.
Right.
They didn't predict that the Golden State Warriors were competing for the Bulls record.
Yeah.
Nobody saw that coming,
No.
especially. But you've known the Kobe thing since November or whatever, December. You've known for a minute now because you've allowed your networks that host you to talk about that they're competing for the Bulls record in Golden State. You could maybe start thinking a little ahead.
Yeah.
And just figure it out.
well,
Negotiate with these networks.
Yeah,
you can
that
do
would
it.
be the easier part.
I'm sure I'm sure the Disney network would have no problem making these adjustments if they could.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would love to have both in primetime slots.
On the East Coast.
Get one on ABC, get one on ESPN, both at 8 o'clock. That would even make more sense. Even if they weren't at the same time, at least they're on primetime spots for the East Coast to see. Now they're both on at
ABC.
Now they're both on 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
Just not pretty.
Well,
Stupid.
Thank you, Kobe Bean, though, for the years. It was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Sucks that I have to, stay up to 1 o'clock in the morning to watch it, but I will.
I like that you're honoring it. I like the jersey.
Yep.
Quickly to my favorite franchise in the NBA. They made some splashes last week. Never thought
That'd be good.
the week before going into the playoffs
Oh my.
in 2016 that we would be talking about the Sixers.
It's very late for y'all. We talking about lottery picks right now?
Eventually. They have a 50-50 chance of getting one of the top 2 picks. So
trade.
I guess that's on their side. Well, who knows what they're going to do now because they decided to get rid of the guy steering the ship. They just threw him off the boat. They were like, hey, man, you got to go. And he wrote a 13-page, I guess, I don't even know, letter to them.
Called him out a little bit.
It was great. I don't disagree with the things he was saying. I think, personally, this is an NBA job, and the Sixers ownership blinked when the NBA was basically forcing them to. Now, I have made it very clear in past shows, and to a lot of people in general, I do not like the Sixers ownership in any way, shape, or form. Outside of Will Smith, but he has zero control of what's going on.
Go on.
So they bring in
Go ahead, dig yourself out this hole, bro.
Jerry Colangelo in the middle of the season because the NBA basically says, look, we need to watch it. We need to get a hawk in there because we are tired of you finding a loophole in our system, which I think that in 2016 was the off season that they were going to try to go forward. But now we will never know, and that is a different debate for a different day. But if the NBA put somebody in there, the NBA put somebody in there in the middle of the season to basically make sure, to not force them, to just make sure that they did that. Sam Hinkie did not want to work under that guy. That guy decided to bring in...
Who did you bring in, Jared?
The White's favorite coach to be an assistant coach in Philadelphia, Mike D'Antoni.
Is he really in there now? Is it official?
He's the assistant coach at the moment. Brett Brown is still the head coach, but they brought him in as the assistant coach in the middle of the year, and that was basically Jerry Colangelo saying, "Hey, D'Antoni, you're my boy. Go in there, tell me the feel in the locker room, tell me what's going on the bench, tell me what's going on with these players, this, that, and the next thing." That was in the middle of the season.
Just made the story so much funnier.
So Sam Hinkie probably didn't want that to happen, and it did. Not willing to, probably him. So basically, Hinkie told the Sixers, "I need full control of what's going on." The Sixers said, "Well, the NBA put this guy in here, and we're not going to take him out." So Hinkie leaves, and they announce the next day that Jerry Colangelo is now the head of basketball operations. He's going to make all personnel and executive decisions. Over the weekend, they hired his son, Bryant Colangelo, and they decided to tell everybody that Jerry had nothing to do with the hiring.
Really? Nothing to do with it. Okay.
I mean, his job was to hire a GM because he was, head of basketball operations, which would mean that, his job is to bring executives in. He was the basketball executive.
So he hired his son.
According to the Sixers, he didn't. Now, I'm going to sit here I'm going to call their bluff. So I'm going to be the NBA on this side of this, and I'm just going to blink. I'm going to look at them, and they are going to blink because everybody knows.
Is this a Doc Austin Rivers situation?
Let's hope not. So,
the only reason my son has a job is because I allowed it?
Brian Colangelo, he has some pretty bad number 1 overall picks, but his number 1, Bargnani, is the really bad number 1 pick. But to be honest with you, looking back on that draft, there's not one player left in the league from that draft, and that was only, 5 years ago? So that's how bad that draft was. Not saying he did not, listen, but if he takes somebody else, do they end up being any better? Apparently not, looking at the fact that there's nobody left in that draft. That's really crazy and impressive.
Anyway, it doesn't matter right now.
He wasn't miserable outside of that, but I'm not happy to how he got here. And if the reports were true that agents and players didn't want to come to Philadelphia and work with them because they didn't like Hinkie, then it's a catch-22. I guess it works out as a Sixers fan. But on the flip end of it is, I wanted to see his plan through because at this point you got him this far. I said it. I said it last year, I will give him one more offseason. They're going to tank in 2015, 2016. I said I will give him one more offseason. And if he does not fix it in the offseason, I said, well, then the year after, you're going to have to get rid of him before the season starts. If he doesn't do anything in the free agent period, doesn't get a big-name player in the draft, whatever it is, if he doesn't do that thing that he has to do to start taking steps forward, then I was like, you got to remove him because they were purposely getting players that couldn't play in the NBA. And I knew they were going to do that this year, and I accepted that fact. But I wanted to give him this offseason to see it out. And if he didn't do anything, if the next year they did the same thing, then yes, I'm fully on board with telling him to get the heck out of town. But who knows? I mean, that's a debate that we will never understand. And I don't like the way the Sixers ownership has gone about this. I don't like the way the Sixers ownership has gone about so many things over the last couple of years. They looked at us as fans and they told us to trust the
best part.
This
is the best part, y'all.
To trust the process and be patient.
And you did. Like the typical Philly fan that you are.
And they were.
And you bought into it.
They didn't trust the process, nor were they patient. So here we are. Here we are. But
it's like they dangle like a piece of food in front of you. And we're like, oh, you almost got it. Like that commercial where the dude with the rod, he's like, oh, you gotta be quicker than that.
I do understand what you're saying.
It's kind of what they do to y'all.
I think Starchick and Embiid will both be back next year. You're gonna have, knock on wood, a 50% chance of getting one of the top 2 picks. So if the balls are shown on TV, you have a good chance of getting one of the top 2 picks.
Doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, no. If you get one of those 2, you get Starchick and Embiid back, and then you can get Noel. They're gonna trade Noel or Okafor during the offseason, I assume. But you're gonna keep one. I mean, you can't play with 2 centers in the league. It's just how it goes. And
should have drafted 2 centers.
Well, they should have drafted 3 centers, but they did. I'm a guy who always says you got to draft best player on the board because that gives them the opportunity now to do something with those best players on the board. But now it's about what they do with drafting those best players on the board and getting rid of them. What assets are you bringing back? You got to get assets that can help you win now, not future picks. And that's what he was doing for the most part. It's just a big circle. It's a bad circle. I would like to see him do it this year.
It's a big joke. The only thing I have one sentence to say about this.
Yeah.
They're a disgrace of an organization right now.
No, I mean the ownership. It starts from the top. What is my biggest issue with Tennessee and Jacksonville?
Well, we say, no, the ownership. That's what I mean. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, it's a disgrace right now.
Yep,
it's a complete disgrace.
Yep. I think that the NBA should force them to sell it. I think Will Smith
Oh, you're with that. Actually,
ownership.
I kind of felt that way too.
He wants he wants to be involved in trying to get a different ownership involved. I'm pretty sure I've heard those reports a couple of times. So let's make this happen because I think them going a different direction from the top will be the best thing. No matter how much talent they have, no matter what, listen, it's going to be kind of hard in my eyes to mess this up. You can get great players in return for some of these players, and if you have a 50-50 chance at the top pick, you're going to get a transcendent.
Might not get great. There's a lot of unproven young
Not great.
talent.
Let me put it this way: you can
Too much unproven.
You can go out and try to eventually get a Jimmy Butler or Paul George with one of the top 2 picks in these drafts. You're going to have either Noel and Okafor, and then hopefully Embiid or Starczyk. The options are there to go forward and be half decent, and just all you have to literally do is figure out how to put B+ players around them. Like that's an NBA GM.
I'm gonna need them to get
dream.
some C+ players first before they worry about B.
Yeah, the talent is there. That's what I'm saying. You have to develop it. That's what the Lakers are trying to do with Russell and Randall.
You always gotta find a way to squeeze that comparison in, where there's no comparison with how your organization is running right now.
No,
compared to the Lakers organization.
I completely agree. The Sixers' ownership is the worst in the NBA at the moment, so they're not going to be. You know what I mean? It's like what I say. It's like the Titans and Jaguars. That's what they look like today. They're clowns. They're clowns at the top of that ownership.
Yeah, that whole decision is a complete joke, man. I thought it was a joke doing what they've been doing, but now they pretty much
you were this far into it.
Exactly, but now to be like, to have this joke go on, in my opinion, to have this joke keep going, and now you're saying, well, really, yeah, the joke's on you fans because we're just going to go back and we're just going to start all over again.
But to me, the NBA looked at the ownership.
Forget you fans.
It made the ownership do that because they were like, hey, you guys need to turn around. No.
Maybe.
But my thought process is that means they're going to try to leave. They're trying to give the ownership a chance to stay in power, and I do not want the ownership to stay in power. So
maybe. I don't know what the NBA is doing, what they're not doing. I know what the organization of the 76ers is not doing, and that's
the NBA has their hands on more things in their league than any other league.
And maybe they are to blame for this, but
no,
I don't
not
see
to blame
that.
For, they're to blame for Hinsky leaving. They are 110% to blame for Hinsky. There's no question about what transpired there. The Sixers ownership started this whole thing, though. Not even that process, because I'm not even mad that the rebuilding of the process. Because I said to you earlier, I would rather be a Miami Heat where you compete for championships and you always stay in the 5-3 range somewhere in there as for the most part one of the better teams in your conference instead of being like the Milwaukee Bucks where you're always competing for like the 8 to 10 seed. You sometimes you're in the playoffs, sometimes you're not. At least the Sixers hit the reset button and gave themselves an opportunity to be in the Miami Heat realm. But the Miami Heat have a stable owner, they have a stable GM, and good basketball executives around them. The Sixers do not have a stable owner. They basically gave powership to an older guy that the NBA forced in there who just gave powership to his son. It just not
joke.
Good.
It's a joke.
Not good.
It's time to reset the ownership situation.
Well, speaking of something that the Sixers won't see for a while.
What's that?
Playoffs. Now, the seeding is not set as of this recording. It will be set by the time this is put out. So it's going to be hard for us to, break down matchups, but we can break down matchups moving forward. Do you want to just flat out go with who you're going to pick to win it, or do you want to go with...
Yeah, I'm on that level.
Who are you taking out of these? If you had to, out of these couple teams that are, at least 8 teams, who you got coming out of these?
Is it even a question? You're saying it is a question.
You don't think Toronto Madison play?
They could compete out there. I think the Miami Heat can compete out there. I think the Toronto Raptors can compete out there. I think out of the two, I think Miami has a better shot at dethroning who I think is going to come out the East because it's the Cleveland Cavaliers. But I'm going to tell you this. I will go with the Cleveland Cavaliers just because it's a safe bet and it makes sense. But I will not be surprised if they get dethroned by Toronto. I'm more so leaning towards Miami Heat because I feel like that can be a thing.
Well, the Miami Heat also have LeBron's number since LeBron's left for the most part.
Which is weird because as much time as he's down in Miami, you'd think he'd get the game plan or some dumbass. No, but because in recent months, Cleveland's been such a dysfunctional mess, I'm not going to be shocked if they fall off.
Things have calmed down over the last 2 or 3 weeks, though, knock on wood for them.
2 weeks, yeah, maybe.
That's it, 2 weeks. I know.
We haven't had Cavs off court in a while.
I know, they need to celebrate 2 weeks of no drama, big deal, right?
Except, it was a little something I just thought.
That's not true.
What, LeBron tweeting out that he wasn't watching Golden State?
Oh, no.
Okay, well, I don't know what you were talking about. I'm talking about when LeBron was watching the Golden State San Antonio game, and he tweeted out he was watching NBA TV that night. He was watching the Utah Jazz versus whoever in the 1997 Western Conference Finals. He was watching that. He wasn't watching Golden State versus San Antonio. He's got to let the world know on that big game.
He's focused. He was
focused on getting his attention back. Drama queen. So I take that back. No, there's been drama because he's out there.
I heard, and it's not true, that he was in Instagram models DMs, like saying, "Hey, what's up?" or something like that. Yeah, she's the girl. She's the girlfriend of a safety from the Browns. No, she tweeted it out, but it looked kind of photoshopped, and he's not stupid enough to do something like that. Hey, he's married. Like LeBron is. Come on.
I don't.
And then
I never heard of that.
She was at the Cavs game that night with her boyfriend then, and I was like, no, this is just attention. This is
just dumb.
Well, it broke today. That's what I read it today. But anyways, so I'm going with LeBron as well out of the East. I think he's just going to hit that next level. I think he has started to hit that next level the last couple of weeks of the season, and he's been very impressive. His numbers are as good as they've been all year, which it seems that the last couple of years, that's what he's done at the end of the year. He's turned that little switch on, and he's taken that next step. So I think they're going to get themselves to the finals. They have to stay relatively healthy between the big three, though, definitely. Obviously.
I think, well, as long as they can, the health-wise, I think they need to obviously just need to stay focused like they've been relatively, at least better in a couple of days than they have in recent months. But like I said, I'm not going to be surprised if a Toronto or so Miami Heat, 1 or 2. I'm not going to be surprised if they do beat them out. I could be a hater, I could be whatever
before the season,
term y'all want to throw at me.
When we picked our teams coming out of the East and out of the West, who'd you pick out of the East? Did you pick Cleveland?
I didn't pick anything because I said I didn't want to pick. It's too early for that.
I picked Cleveland versus San Antonio. So moving to the West, who do you got coming out of the West right now?
Is that a real question, though?
So you think Golden State's going to run right through it?
I think Golden State's winning it all. I don't think this is even a conversation. I do think, and I said before and I stand by it, I think Golden State, their biggest threat is going to be San Antonio, in my opinion. Hands down.
Yeah. I
think they can go through Cleveland if they would end up facing Cleveland in the finals. I think they will go through them in 5-6 games.
Yeah.
Anybody else out the West, out the East, excuse me, they would demolish. In my opinion.
I agree with that.
But the West side, Oklahoma is kind of quietly doing their thing. Russell Westbrook's putting up triple doubles every other damn night. But I just in a series, I can't see anybody but San Antonio being a threat. But at this rate, it's Golden State's time. It's Steph Curry's time. I feel like they're going to get another one of them things, and
before the season, I had San Antonio playing the Cavs in the finals, and I didn't pick a winner. Right. I'm not one to ever change it, but I got to go with Golden State taking it out of the West. I mean, they haven't lost 4 of 7 games since they put Draymond Green into the starting lineup, which was just a little bit before Christmas last season. Right. They haven't lost 4 of 7 games. Well, you got to lose 4 of 7 to get booted out of the playoffs. They haven't done that in the regular season, in the playoffs, in nothing. So
they haven't lost. They didn't lose a back-to-back game all season.
Not only am I picking them to come out of the West, I think they're gonna win the whole thing. Now, with that said, I'm gonna still be rooting for LeBron, full 110%. That's but I think
I'm ready for that drama to come when he doesn't win.
I think Golden State is that good, and if they break the record, they have no choice but to go out and win the championship. So. Right. I'm excited to see it.
Even if they don't break the record, which I think they will, they're still going. I feel like they still have this chip on their shoulder.
Playoffs are always fun, though, and the finals are always super intense and crazy, even no matter how short or long they are. So it is that time, and it's upon us. And
it's just my favorite time.
Yeah,
I love NBA playoffs.
Golden State might be that good.
Man, I'm just trying to think. Could it be
the Grizzlies?
No, hell no. I mean, a lot of people are saying, maybe the West is going to be, the playoffs in general are going to be boring because of the Cavs, because of the Warriors.
Maybe. There might be some fireworks and unexpected things going on.
I mean, the way that, what you just said, the way that the Grizzlies competed against Golden State
at
in
least
the last
some interesting
matchup,
series is
right?
What you're going for.
Right. I don't think there's going to be a bunch of sweeps out here, but there might be 1 or 2.
Oh yeah, there might be. A couple.
With the Cavs and Golden State, I don't think they're going to do a complete sweep to the finals. I don't think that's going to happen. I can see
But
Golden
even
State
if it
losing
doesn't
1 or 2, I
be-
see Cleveland losing 1 or 2.
Even if they do dominate the whole way through, it's still something interesting to watch. People
Right.
still were enjoying those Lakers teams dominating the whole way through the playoffs. You know what I mean? So there's still a value and aspect in awe and shock and impressiveness of how well they're doing that because of how competitive it is, especially over the last couple of years. If a team were to dominate right now, we would definitely be in crazy.
I just want to make sure I'm
It'll
saying
be
the right team
hopefully it's an
sometimes.
interesting
But
series. You're gonna have Drake.
between the 4 and the 5, there's been right now, at least today of this recording, the 4 and the 5, we got the Heat and the Hawks.
Yeah, going back and forth.
That could be an interesting matchup, and that's the first round matchup. That could be very interesting. I think that's
Yeah.
so. To go back to my original question, I think that it can be a competitive playoffs, but not so much with the Golden States or
Right.
with
Right.
the Cavaliers. I think it's going to be, these 4, 5, 6 seeds that are going to compete amongst themselves. Maybe we'll get a San Antonio versus Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That makes things very
That'd be
interesting.
fun. That'd be fun.
Makes it very interesting. Then obviously you got to go to Golden State, but
Clippers, Golden State, just because of the beef they had, even though the Golden State
Yeah.
obviously beats them up, but it's
Right.
still, the little back and forth they were going about. So
as much as I can't stand them either, the Rockets are sneaking into the playoffs as well.
Yeah. Hot at the end of the season.
You never know. It's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. This is my favorite time of the year when NBA playoffs are going on. It's going to be a fun time.
Yeah.
It sucks that Kobe isn't going to be in it. It's going to be weird again,
It
but
is. It is.
he's going to get the big send-off, so
Yeah.
hey, it'll be cool.
Well, next week we'll be talking probably a little playoffs at this point. So
Playoffs, we're going to have NBA is going to be going on. NHL is going to be going on. Got 2 big fights going on this year.
the draft's coming up. We have a lot to talk about going forward. So
I feel like it's going to be a big show next week.
Thank you.
Lots to talk about.
thank you for watching JD Sports. I'm Jared Hood. That's Dwight Garfield.
Peace out, Kobe.